Hey, good evening, Sumit on this side. We are back again for our next episode, next chapter in this series. And today I'll be talking about something a little different. So, yeah, we went through a live session. We saw some of how code was generated out of Gemini CLI. We used Cloud Code. As you remember, if you have not watched, by the way, the second video, you can go ahead and watch the second video. And then we got something out of the vibe coding experiment that we did. In fact, the code that was generated by Cloud Code was pretty cool, pretty nice. Everything was working. As you saw, there was also pagination. I was quite surprised the downloader works well. The downloader had status and everything. So all of that is good. Now I want to take a step back and I want to go through some of the topics that will make us better vibe coders. And this is where things get a little more engineering, and there is no way to shift this away, and I'll tell you why. So let's start with the whys first. Like, why do we need to learn a little bit of engineering? The reason for that, and I have been having these discussions a lot of times, I just had it with my collaborator today, but even before, like even today itself, I had it on a little bit of chat. And the more I talk about these things, the more they are becoming clearer. So one of the analogies that I used, this and there was this session that I think I mentioned last week. I had a session with about 30 people. It was a trial session for training vibe coding, like for teaching vibe coding. And one of the analogies, like I think I really like using, and it fits very well. If you have a better analogy, by the way, please share on comments. But yeah, think about building a house. If you're building a house, there's just so much technicality to it, right? I'm not talking about finding a builder. I'm saying if you build it yourself or with help of friends, family, whoever, but you're very involved in the process. There is an entire design process. There's an entire process to design the house. You're probably using some kind of software. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you're not. Maybe you're just creating a blueprint, with pen and paper. That's also fine. But there is a requirements, right? There is a set of your mental model of the house. There is requirements to be taken, and you have to take into consideration plumbing, electricals, maybe where will you park your car, and so on and so forth. There's so many things. Now think that you have taken some either online classes, you have friends, you sit together and you're like, you know what, we could do little bigger. Like we could build maybe a 2 story, 4 story shared building. And yeah, you could do that. A few friends, I'm sure there are lots of people who have done this. Few friends get together and build a building together, and maybe they are sharing an apartment, they're putting up on rent, whatever. But the building process up to a certain number of stories is not that complicated. Like if you know how to build the house, like the first story, you probably can do second story, you probably can do third, and so on. And yeah, there is a little bit of that scaling, like okay, I know the concepts for foundation, support structures, beams, whatever. And also depends on what materials you're using. I'm not a builder, but I can guess because I've been involved in this process with my family homes multiple times. So where to where to put what, where is the load bearing capacity going to be, what is that pillar, and probably there are different names to these things. These have become common enough knowledge. Like when I'm saying these things on a camera, like you're watching this on a video on YouTube, you probably can relate to it. Like of course, if you have never even seen a building's document, like the blueprint or the structure, or even noticed like, oh, there is a pillar here, oh, there's a support structure here, then whatever I'm saying is probably gibberish to you. And that is exactly what I want to talk about when it comes to vibe coding. That there are certain ideas, there are certain ways to work with software, and those are not going away. To build the code, it's like saying that, oh, okay, I can employ people, I can get people who will come and who will help me build the house, but I cannot do away with the idea of plumbing. The plumbing still needs to happen. Sure, I can then say, hey, I will just employ a plumber and the plumber will do everything needed. That's one way definitely to go about it. But what if I live in a very remote place and I don't have access to an experienced plumber, right? Then in that case, what are my ways, what is available to me? And I think that is what we are going to approach when we do vibe coding. That the ideas of software, how to launch software, how to maintain software, how to build software, how to test software, how to not have only bugs, these still need to be understood. And I can contrast this to like having the plumber, the experienced plumber. Similarly, will I have an experienced engineer to help me out? Sure, that's one way of doing it. And interestingly enough, by the way, I'm thinking of feel free to also chime in or build this product yourself if you want to. But I'm thinking of a social, like a network-ish product where people can simply help each other build vibe code products. So maybe engineers can jump in and like, hey, I just charge $30 to help you out, or $50 to help you out in this particular problem. It's like bounties, right? You get stuck, you open up bounties, but the whole idea is to vibe code. But yeah, setting that aside, you get the point. You get where I'm trying to go with this. Is that just like building a house, you cannot remove some of the knowledge, and maybe that knowledge has become common knowledge. With the case of a house, yes, for sure, some of this knowledge has become very common knowledge, but it's still knowledge. You still need to know the basics of plumbing. You still need to know how sewage, I don't know, moves around, or maybe water flows, pressure, right? You need to know electricals, you need to know earthing, grounding, however you call it. There are some basic things you cannot do away with. That's what I'm trying to say. And this will apply to any field. You want to fix your car, same thing. You want to build a house, same thing. You want to, I don't know, build a business, maybe there are not these kind of topics, but there are legal topics and there are other bureaucratic topics that you need to know. There is some knowledge that we will have to gather. What is that some knowledge? So in the case of vibe coding, that some knowledge is about how do we create software that we can keep adding on to. So there is this whole idea of like, let's build a prototype. Yeah, we saw that with this. But now if I ask the question, hey, I built this prototype, I built this software, it works well, the downloader works well, I can browse the data that is there. But now let's say I want to make the browser better, I want to make it nicer, I want to have a pop-up come out when I click on a Hacker News item, and I want to see all the the comments right below that. It gets complicated, and now the complexity of it increases even more, because you have a model which has, any AI model, any large language model, this in this day and age still has problems like hallucination, still has problems like, or limitations rather, like context window, which means that how much it can read, how much of my existing code, like if I stopped yesterday, or I stopped a month back and I start today, can it take it from there and just add the new features as I'm expecting, or will it make a blunder? Like in my experience, I had this very clearly. I remember I had this blunder that Claude Code suggested me. I asked it to add new features to my web application. So I have this full stack application. There's the backend, and like I've said, we will discuss these ideas of what is a backend, what is a front end, etc. But let's assume that there are two parts. So the backend is what runs on the server. Like any software, like YouTube, for example, you're watching this video, you're seeing only the UI of YouTube. You're not seeing where all the videos are stored, all the algorithms run, how does YouTube calculate what to suggest to everybody, etc., etc. That's, let's say, the backend. Let's say now in my software, of course, my software is much simpler, but still it has backend and front end. The front end is a web application. You run it on the browser, and I asked it to add some features. And interestingly enough, so I always ask it to like, hey, create tickets. Okay, that's the structured way. We will see that very structured way to go vibe coding. And it created those tickets, but when I read those tickets before committing to them, before asking AI to actually start working on those tickets to actually start creating the code, I noticed something fishy. I noticed like, it seems like it's going to end up creating yet another web application when I already have a web application. That entire project, by the way, is vibe coded, so it already has a web application, and it seems to me that it's going to create a different web application in that same folder, in that same place, but a second web application. Maybe, I don't know, it'll figure out that it has already a web application at the time of execution. But I was like, wow, this is risky business, right? So those things can happen, right? And this is not that different. Now again, if you take a step back and think of the house analogy, this is not that different from that, right? If you have faucets everywhere, what is the water pressure? If you have, I don't know, do you think of fire safety? Do you think of this? Do you think of do I have a smoke detector, blah blah blah. There are so many things, and so many things are different, from country to country, jurisdictions. This is a very involved process. Vibe coding will also be that, and that's what I want to be like talking about today. That a lot of people, make it out to be like one shot process. Yes, we one shotted, like we just made one prompt. We had a couple sentences to describe the idea that we were trying to build, and we got something out of it. We browsed, we saw the data, and we were like, wow, that is so cool. And it is cool, by the way. But it is not going to stay as easy if you take this product and add more features, or maybe you have a bug because you couldn't see a scenario or something else broke, and then you want to fix that and you want to add new features, and then you're like, I'm already forgetting what I did 2 months back, and now I cannot even go to that place. I forgot even in the UI where it is. I think I know, but I cannot go back to it, and I cannot test it, and so on and so forth. This is bound to happen, and that's what I want to talk about. That there is a cost to adding so much code into a project as you keep building it, right? If you build even a small e-commerce software, like I'm not even talking about an e-commerce platform, I'm saying, let's say, mom and pop shop, dedicated personalized e-commerce, like you build your own, not a one pager but like a 5 pager e-commerce software, like very small, very simple. It does not even have, say, I don't know, a big content management system or whatever. But just to have that inventory show up, people interacting, going through maybe 2 pages of ordering and then placing the order, payments, etc., and then finally, like you having also somewhere to manage the shipment, the delivery, to give that status update, etc., that can quickly become a mess. And that is important to understand, is that coding has become easier now, that you can generate a lot of code, and you can generate very fast, very cheap. And this is something that I really love. I really love where this is going. By the way, for background, I own the domain nocodo.com. So I've been personally interested in no code. So nocodo.com is my domain since 2013, and this is a personal desire I've always had. Why can not more people code without knowing, like build software without knowing how to code? So no code has been an extremely important part of my thought process, my life. And only now, after trying multiple times, by the no code I've tried multiple times, built it, broken it apart, built it again multiple times, and it didn't really work out till today, in this era where I feel like AI generated coding can finally be the real no code, right? Where it's still code, of course. Even in no code there is always code. It was just that it was not your code, somebody else's code. But now the big difference is that this can be your code. Like AI generates the code for you, but this can be your code. You run it on your machine, your code running on somebody else's machine, your code running on a server, your code running on the mobile phone, the application, etc. So the hindrance, the barrier for people that, hey, I don't know how to write code, I cannot build software myself. I think we are going to see a different era, an era where people are like, hey, I need my software, custom software for my manufacturing plant or my process or whatever else. And most of the big software out there is not fitting into my niche, my need. You can now build it. You can now build it without knowing coding, and that's fantastic. But just like running a business, a manufacturing business needs, I'm sure the owner also needs to have a basic idea of what this is about. Similarly, vibe coding will need some of that structure, the thought process. And that thought process is nothing else but our existing thought process from software engineering. How have we, like I am a professional software engineer. I've been programming for, 15, 16, 17 years now. And I built teams, I've managed teams, I built teams across 3 continents. And there's a way that I think about things, like how when I enter, like the even the meeting room or the team, and I'm sitting with people and I'm thinking, I'm brainstorming, I'm collaborating, there is a pattern that in my brain, like of course I've set it up over years now, but there is a pattern through which I see problems, and that will stay. There will be a pattern that you will have to build yourself. And this is important. The main thing that I want to take away, that I want you to take away from today's this video, is that the most important learning is that if you think that you can learn how to build a house, because a lot of people do, by the way. I am not, like I said, I am not, but I am always in awe. Like, I'm so, like, I don't know, mesmerized when I see people building their tiny homes or their actual full sized homes, etc., all by themselves. They know how to woodwork, they know how to work with concrete, and I'm like, wow. I'm not talking about architects and, I don't know, senior level people who can build a 60-story building, a 100-story building. That's different. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about people who can just build their own houses. And if we could get to that level for vibe coding, with vibe coding, that would be amazing. That means that we could, just like we can build, so many people can build custom house, we could build custom software without knowing coding. And the reason why we can build a custom house without knowing so many nitty gritty things, imagine all the tools that we have for house building, starting from maybe just the simple hammer. Okay, maybe the hammer is too simple. Maybe the electric, drill machine, right? That drill machine is already a small feat of engineering, like a compact, not a small feat of engineering. Maybe the engineering was pretty good, but I mean to say a compact machine which allows us to do so many things in house building. But think if that tool did not exist, if that structure, that form, and the nomenclature around it, like how we name that tool, the drill bits and everything else that fits around it, and where can you put it, what can you do with it, etc. If there was no standardization, that's what I mean to say, if there's no standardization around that, imagine how much more complicated it would be for, let's say, somebody, let's say, who's very knowledgeable, to explain it to somebody like me who's barely knowledgeable. It would be a mess. And that's exactly what we want to avoid. We want to avoid being able to talk from you to the AI, or you to the engineer, in case you need an engineer, right? So let's say you, sometimes things are so broken, you're so messed up that, oh, I need to pull in an engineer because my vibe coded app is just so broken. That can also happen. Let's hope that that does not happen. But even if you want to describe the problems, the errors, etc., that you're getting, you need to know some of that language, some of that standardization. Also, you need to know how to run some of the tools, because, like, even today I was answering this question. Somebody asked me, I believe on Discord, that why do I prefer running, Claude Code, for example, instead of Replit or any of these web platform like Lovable. Lovable is great, by the way, for what it is and what it does. And I have nothing against any of these tools. The more tools, the better. But the reason I prefer doing everything on my machine is not that I want a tighter control on the software. A lot of people think like, oh, I want a tighter control. A lot of developers do, by the way. We are engineers, of course, we have trained our minds in that way, that we need a tighter control on the code. We need to review the code. I don't review line by line AI generated code anymore. I have stopped doing that already. The reason I need that is because if you want to run software, and I'm not even saying software at Airbnb scale or something like that, I'm saying mom and pop shop, like small business shop, or like early stage products and stuff like that, right? At that stage, even like with 13 users, maybe 300 maybe users, maybe a couple thousand users, even at that stage, you'll have bugs, you'll have features, you'll have new things to chase. It'll get really messy if you don't know, oh, where do I go and see the errors? If you don't know where do the logs come, what is even logs, what is even a server, like where does it go, where does it stay? And the easy way to ask that, like, I would probably start with just asking Perplexity, or I don't know, Google Gemini, whatever. I'll just ask like, hey, I plan to, vibe code. Let's try that one. Let's try one right now. Plan to vibe code a simple e-commerce application app for my bakery business. I have three manufacturing, I guess. Crap locations, and I deliver the items to multiple small store fronts. I want to manage orders, track deliveries, take payments, manage invoices, etc. Can you please explain the basics of technology I will need to vibe code something like this? I don't know. This is just, by the way, this is just a random prompt. I just came up with it right now. We'll see what it does. I usually ask 3 or 4 models the same thing, like 3 or 4 tools, models. I'm not using Gemini. I'm using it for the first time after a long time, by the way, so I don't even know. No thanks. I'm using the free one. I don't want any upgrades or whatever it may give me. Okay, so Perplexity, Claude, let's see. Front end, okay, what customers see, this what customers see, right? Just that much is already helpful. Like what customers see, web technologies, okay, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, foundation for any web app, React or Vue.js, Vue.js, modern frameworks that make building interactive interfaces easier. Okay, I get an idea. Mobile, React Native or Flutter if you want a mobile app later. Great, it added the word later, which I really like, because yeah, maybe it understood for this kind of a product, maybe the mobile app is not so important, or at least not in the beginning. But yeah, it has laid down these key points, right? It would be nice to read, and this is what I'm saying. So it's okay to not know, but it's going to be really hurtful if we keep on not knowing. That's what I want to talk about. That's it, right? So asking questions like these, going through a few models. By the way, you don't need pro accounts to any of these tools. You can just start chatting with the free ones, chat gpt. You can just start talking with the free ones and get an idea, right? And just compare, just read, take the time, patience, read, and you will see that at least a core idea will start emerging, and then maybe you'll be like, okay, some of these things I want to dig deeper, because before I commit to this project, before I start building something, again, the coding of part of it has become much easier. And as we are doing these sessions, we will see, as we build more and more things, that the coding part has really become much easier. But only when you can explain the basics to large language models, you can keep to some structures, you can test your application, you can go step by step, and then you can confidently launch your product. So the idea is, and this is something that is very critical, I will talk about vibe coding only in the context of being able to launch things that will last for a while. Like me as a software engineer, I'm not throwing away my attitude of a software engineer. I'm not saying let's build garbage. I worked with more than maybe, I don't know, 14-15 startups over the last 15 plus years. And yeah, in startups there is a totally, like a person coming from, a developer or engineer coming from a mid-sized company will probably say, wow, you guys don't test your code as much, etc., etc. Yeah, for sure, we don't get the time. We have probably a lot stricter schedule than many mid-sized companies. We don't have that luxury. We cannot spend so much time in making the code the best possible. But it's still production code, because it has to last, it has to grow, it has to scale, it has to survive. If there are bugs, we have to fix, and we have to keep this going every day, day in, day out, while the features are changing, while the product managers are going crazy figuring out the next what features to build, or the analytics says something else, etc. This is the daily job of an engineer at a startup, particularly early stage, which has always been my place. My place has always been early stage. Like I mentioned, I built teams for more than a decade now. And this is just daily job, right? Daily job is too much uncertainty, but how do you keep the chaos controlled? So keeping chaos controlled is what I'm going to talk about, because as much as it's fantastic to build one page demos, or those the one that we made. By the way, the one that we made is like, wow, awesome, really, like for one prompt for it to come out, awesome stuff, right? Very productive. I could see the whole Hacker News browser like locally on my machine with all the content downloaded, etc., etc. Fantastic. But is that the product that I could deliver to people? No. Does it even have an installer? No. Do I even know how to get into, like, I don't know, somebody else's machine? No. I have no clue. So that's not the bar. The bar is much higher and we have to reach there. And to reach there, this video hopefully has told you like why you need to understand some of these things. So I'm not going to teach you, like, I'm not a hand holding person, by the way. I'm not going to tell you each and every small thing like this is what is a front end. For that, now AI is already here. Is the attitude I'm talking about. Have that attitude, that open mindedness, that yes, there may be things, just like if my car was broke down somewhere, I need to know some things. Maybe I would open up my phone, I would start searching, blah blah blah. I'll probably open up the car and start figuring things out. Maybe I'll get stuck, maybe I'll do well, I don't know, but the learning attitude matters. That's what I wanted to talk about today, that we will need this from now on at every step. And like I said, I don't handhold. I like just telling that, hey, if you have a problem, I'll be here to help you out, but the learning is still your own. And trust me, if you reach out to me anywhere, Discord, Reddit, Product Hunt, YouTube, just comment on my videos, I'm there, I'll be happy to help. But learning is still to be your job. And the reason for that is because when you will catch a bug in production, when things will go broken in production, when you have users, then you will be really frustrated if you didn't learn the basics now, right? If you already were not prepared for that. So that much preparation, just knowing where to ask, who to ask, what are the basics, what are the fundamental terminologies, will help you go through vibe coding much better. That's all. Thanks for watching, and we'll go again, hands on in the next video.